have this destroyed screen from one of our rentals that we use as an Airbnb, and so we are going to replace that today. All we're gonna do, basically the anatomy of a screen, if you are not familiar, is you have this perimeter, and I know this one's a little janky, but they're old windows and it still gets in there just fine. You have the perimeter of the screen, the frame, and then you have this little, see this gray that goes all the way around the edge? That's like a little piece of almost rubber roping, that's the seal, and that pushes in and it holds the screening in. So if you look all the way around this, you see how that corner is continuous, that corner is continuous. This is where it starts and ends. You can see there's a break in the material. So that is where I'm gonna start to pull the material up. Now, if you can get this rubber seal out, I don't know if it's actually rubber, without breaking it, you can just reuse it, and it's already cut to the right size. It's gonna have all the bends in the right spot for going around the corner, and that's a great way to do it. If this breaks, or maybe you're using a thicker or a thinner screen, so you need a different size gasket, then you can also replace this. They have this in rolls in the back of your home improvement store. At my Home Depot, they have it where they have the windows, they have rolls of the replacement screening. They have this filler rod, I don't know what it's called, and then they have the tool that you push this into this little channel with. So right now, we're just pulling all of our old screening out. So that's what's left. You probably have more left in your screen than I did there. So now what we're gonna do, and because if this doesn't crack, and it hasn't so far, I'm gonna reuse this. If not, and they have two different, well, they might have more than two, I don't know. Let's see it. Screen spline, so that's what it's actually called. And they have different sizes, different thicknesses. So you can just buy it. I got smaller rolls. You can buy much more than this if you have a lot to do. Same thing with the screen. You can get different types. You can get the average one. You can get the one that's stronger, like if you have pets. You can get one that's supposed to be better for visibility. You can get smaller screening if you have a lot of small insects in your area. There's all sorts of options. You're gonna use this tool, and it has just this little roller wheel, and you can push your spline into the channel, and then it has like an edge to help you push it into corners. Now, some tools, like this is a newer plastic version. When I first learned how to do this, they were wood. Sometimes I would need to use like a flathead screwdriver to push this into the corners. So if yours doesn't look like this, that's okay. Now, the other thing about this one that I just got is you actually can roll the screen through, or the spline through here, and like push it in, I guess. But the way I always did it is I just put it in place and then I pushed. So yours might be the same or a little bit different than this. Now you want to make sure when you do this, you have enough of an overhang. Like for instance, you don't want to put this like right here super short and then try to do it, because when it pushes the spline in, it's going to tighten. You want to give yourself, I think it says like 2 inches of overhang on the instructions. Give yourself extra, just whatever. There's going to be a little bit of waste. Trim it down, and then we'll trim it down after. Don't make it too small or you're going to have problems. Now we're going to pull it as taut as we can, but I think if you do like this side and this side, then when you come this way, you'll make sure you have it tighter when you get over there. So we're not worrying about too much about that yet. So again, I'm using my existing piece. You may not be. And so if you weren't, then you would just, again, cut off more than you think you need of your spline, because you can trim it at the end. So I'm gonna reuse my piece just because I can, and why not, right? And see, we're just gonna see how that just goes in there so nicely. Now, if you want to be real careful about making sure your screening is perpendicular and really square, you can take more time with it. I just want to keep the bugs out. And so see, despite my best efforts for my corner, I'm going to have to wrap that around. So failure on my part. That's okay. I'm going to pull it tight. I'm going to outline my spline. And if it's having a hard time going in, you can also stretch it a little bit, your splining. I want my screening to be tight both ways. I'm kind of gonna pull this at an angle this way, but I gotta get wrapped around this corner before I worry too much about anything. I'm just turning it so I have better access to this side. Work this in with our tool. Just gonna trim my excess. So now once we're done, we're just gonna go around and get all our corners in, just make sure they're nice and tight. And you're gonna get that extra screening. So if you run that blade like this against the inside of the framing on top of the splining, you're probably gonna have a pretty, whatever scratching that blade does on that frame is gonna be probably not visible or not very visible inside of there. So that was, I found, the best way, just to run that blade like that. There we go. Now we have a new screen.